Good morning. Welcome to every pastor and leader who has joined us today. I'm sure that in the next few minutes, more and more people will join us. We are all presenting from different places due to this COVID pandemic that we are currently having. And I want to take a minute to just talk about the current situation where we're in. You know, there was a small book that was written about 15 years ago called Who Moved My Cheese? And if you've read this book, it'll bless you. If you can get it, do it and read it, because this was an experiment where a mouse was put into a maze and some cheese was put in a corner, and the mouse had to find its way to the corner and then eat and live. And every day the cheese was placed at the same place and the mouse found the way and ate. And then after a week they moved the cheese to another corner, but the mouse kept going to the place where he knew the cheese were previously. And obviously, because the cheese has moved, he never found the cheese and he died. And this is for me such an analogy of where we are today in the world. The world is changing, and it's changing rapidly. And COVID and the pandemic that came with us forced us to change even faster. Many pastors, many Christian leaders are still waiting for when will things go back to normal. When will we go back to the place where the cheese used to be? I want to caution you this morning as a man of God. It might be that we will never go back to what we knew. It might be very possible that things will change permanently. So the better question to ask is not when will we be back to normal. The better question is, what does God expect of me today? What must I do now? How must I adapt to the changing world around me? And this is what today's webinar is all about. So today I have invited some of my friends, people that I've known a lifetime, to participate in this webinar and share their knowledge and share their experience with you as a pastor in your area. And today I want you to do one thing. Only one thing. Listen to this webinar and then pray and say, Lord, what must I do? Because we at Judea Harvest, it is our job and our calling to set the pace, to cast the vision, to support, to be there with you, to encourage you, to empower you, and to resource you. But it's your job to do the work. If God has called you for your area, whether it be Bloemfontein, whether it be Cape Town, whether it be KwaZulu-Natal, whether it be Gauteng or Mpumalanga, if God called you to do it, then you must do it. We just want to make sure you know what to do, you know how to do it, you know when to do it, and we want to be there to help you to do it. So let us pray before we go into this day. Heavenly Father, we are so thankful that we can be part of your kingdom, that we can be part of what you are doing in this world. And as we gather today on this platform where we go online and digitally talk to each other, will you be with each and every pastor? Will you be with each speaker? Bless us and encourage us and empower us through your Holy Spirit. Amen.
Amen.
So it is my privilege to introduce the Cottage School concept. And before I ask the other speakers who are much more knowledgeable than me, I want to take a few minutes to tell you what we see. Judea Harvest as an organization does exactly that. We look at the world, we pray, and we look for opportunities. Opportunity where you can share the gospel of Jesus Christ. opportunity where you can reach out and touch your community. That's really what we do. Now, if we look at the education system of especially South Africa, but for that matter, the whole of Africa, but let's focus today on South Africa. If you look at the education system, then there are really major problems. There are major challenges that they are facing. And today, we don't want to criticize or talk about why that is. It is there. One such a challenge is every year when the new children have to enter the grade R and the grade 1 school system every year, then there is not enough space in the existing schools for them. And this is probably because the population is growing. It's growing by natural birth, but it's also growing by immigration from other countries for people who come to live here. And every parent wants the best education for his child, the best he can afford. I have seen even parents who have got no education has this desire that their children must have a great education, because education helps you to succeed in life. Without it, you are doomed. So every year in this country of South Africa, when January comes and the children has to enroll in schools, there's not enough space. There's just simply not enough seats, enough benches, enough classrooms to accommodate them everywhere. So what the government does is they force every school to take in more than capacity, which means if a classroom was initiated for 20 children, then now they have to accommodate 40 children to make room for everybody. And this has got dire consequences, because the bigger your classes is, the lower your education quality becomes. The more pupils there are in a class, the more easier it is for the children who suffer and who are lacking behind to disappear, and you don't see them progressing. Now, if you don't believe me, let me just tell you what I read in the local newspaper that you can go and find anywhere on the internet. 50% of all children who enter grade 1 do not complete school. So let that sink in for a minute. 50% of all children who go to school never complete it. Somewhere along the line, they fall off. Somewhere along the line, they get out of the system. Now, why would a child fall out of the school system? There might be many reasons, but the most important reason is because they are not succeeding. Just in this week, I talked to a guy, and he's a white man, and he only has standard 7 or grade 7. And I asked him, but why do you only have grade 7? He says, I just couldn't do it. And when I did grade 7 for the 3rd time, I went out of school. And that's what happens to children. Why can they not proceed? Why can they not complete it? Because schooling works like a wall. You build the bricks on the first row, and then on top of that you build the 2nd row, and on top of that the 3rd row, and on top of that the 4th row, and so on. If your base line of bricks are not in a good condition or are missing some bricks, then you can only build the wall to a certain height, then it starts falling, then it becomes unstable. And this is what happens in our education system. When a child enters school, but he cannot get a proper foundation, grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, grade 4. If in those periods his education is not good, not proper, and he doesn't succeed, then when he gets to the higher grades, he is lacking behind, and you cannot catch up. You cannot fix the problem. When the child is in grade 7, you can't fix a problem that happened in grade 1. It's just not possible. And that's why we have 50% of children who enter school don't finish. Now, this is the situation we have in South Africa. And like I say, we are not here to criticize that situation. We are here to say, this creates an opportunity. It creates an opportunity for the church. And I want to talk to you about that opportunity today. So take a deep breath and say, Kola, let me hear that opportunity. You see, in South Africa and in many other places in the world, it is possible to put in an alternative education system with the government. So the government has got their schools and they've got their teachers and they've got their system. But it is perfectly legal and perfectly okay to start a private school in your home, in a church, or in any other setting. You can start a private school where you provide education. And this pressure that we have in the country, where the state schools are overrun with numbers and all the other challenges that they have that we don't want to talk about today. We just want to acknowledge the system is under pressure. This creates an opportunity for the church to start a schooling system in our existing buildings. And if you use that opportunity, then you can touch the life of a child. Now just think about that. If you have a child every day, 5 days out of every 7 days, you have him for the majority of the day in your school. If you cannot influence him for Christ during that time, then you will influence nobody for Christ. Because you've got this child, you can teach him to pray, you can teach him to have a relationship with God, you can teach him the principles of discipleship, while simultaneously giving him a proper education. And there are numerous such examples where the church have done this and done it very, very successfully. Secondly, the opportunity is not only to touch a child. The opportunity is also there to do a proper business model, because education is one of the most expensive things a parent can experience. Now, I've done a little study, and I can tell you, some of the schools, the top schools, are enormously expensive. When you hear the number that they charge per month, you actually have it difficult to believe that it can be that much. And then you have the state schools, where in many instances it's free. But sometimes, if something is free, it is not of a good quality. Things that are of a better quality cost something. Now I know immediately many of you pastors will say, oh, no. The people in my community are poor. They live in RDP houses, they live in shacks, they will never pay for education. Pastor, let me tell you, they will pay. It is possible to do this. Why? Because every parent wants the best for their child. And we've done a little study in 3 of the townships, and we found this interesting phenomena. Most parents that are in a squatter area, there is no school close to them, so they have to pay taxi or transport to get their children to school. And if you put a school in their area, then they don't have to pay the taxi, and that money that they would have spent on transport is already enough to pay their school fees. So what we want to do today is I want to stimulate your mind. I want to stimulate your thinking and to say, you can think about starting a church school. Something we will call a cottage school. You can start that in your existing building, because to start a school system, you need a building, you need equipment, you need a tutor, and you need children. Now, as I said, children, there are an abundance of, because the state system cannot accommodate everybody. So there's already clients willing and looking for opportunity. Number two, we have church buildings, and many of you, your church building is standing empty all week. So you can use that church building to start a school. Then you need tutors. Tutors are not that difficult to find. And when one of our speakers, Jesse, will speak to you later, you'll hear that it's possible to start an education system in your school without having a whole lot of qualified teachers that work at qualified salaries that is registered and all of that. There are different possibilities. So I want to stimulate your mind today and to say, should I not consider starting a cottage school in my church? And this cottage school can have 3 or 4 aims. One aim is, I'm going to touch a child's life and do an education system. Number 2, I'm going to touch the parents of that child through my church. Number 3, I'm going to create a viable business that has a profit initiative that can be beneficial to the church and the church board. And number 4, I can make a difference in my community. And Pastor, you need to understand, if you do this successfully, there is state funding available to help you to further. So our vision with today is to really say the foundation phase, grade 1, grade 2, grade 3, grade 4. Can that be done in a school system? So the vision will be something like this. If you as a pastor say, yes, God is talking to my heart. I have the influence in the community. I have a building in the community. I have people under my control, and I could educate educators. I can recruit people who can teach. And I can start this if somebody will help me and guide me. If you are that guy, then I want you to pay careful attention to what we're going to tell you in this seminar. Because there are 2 school systems. The one is the one you all know. The child goes to school, there's a grade 1 classroom with a blackboard, a teacher, and 40 children, some of them sharing benches, and they all listen to the teacher. That is one style of teaching. That is not what I want you to do. I want you to think about a different schooling system. And the different schooling system is called many home schooling, but the term I like is a cottage school, which means you use one room where children come, each have their own desk, but every child works at his own pace. They don't work in groups where everybody has to listen to the teacher. Every child works at his own pace, and the tutor or the teacher guides the child in his specific journey. What this creates is the child who is intellectually very sharp can go fast and progress very quickly. The child who is behind and who is having some issues, he is not confronted by the whole group and the pressure that he has from the whole group. He works at his own pace, and the teacher or the educator can pay attention to him and help him to grow. And this system has proven to be very successful. And if you are wondering about this, I can tell you, It is one of the fastest growing sectors of education. Just yesterday, I spoke to our president, Dr. Louis Blom, and his own child is not in a public school, but in a cottage school. And he told me, personally, he said, when I moved my child from the public school to the cottage school, my child excelled and bloomed and just did so much better. And he told me yesterday, these cottage schools or home schools or private schools, as you would want to call it, is growing tremendously. It is a sector of the community that is growing. So I want to challenge you, Pastor, do not ask, can this be done? Rather ask, should I do it? Should I be part of this? Must I touch my community in this way? And if you say yes, Judea Harvest will be with you. Judea Harvest will bless you. We will guide you. We will do everything in our power to make sure you are successful. But we have prayed about it. We have dreamt about it, and we think God has placed you in your community. You already have a building in your community. You already have a church board and a pastor who is taking charge of that community. The next logical step is to touch the children. Why is children important? Because, Pastor, let me be very straight with you. Most of our churches preach for adults. Every sermon is focused and designed to touch adults. But if you can touch the children, you're touching the next generation. If you can preach to children, then if you touch them, you'll touch their parents as well. So as a church, we do have other outreaches, and many of you have many plans of how you touch a community for Jesus and touch the children, youth programs and soccer and all of the others. But here is a golden opportunity that'll in the end cost you nothing except vision and leadership and some of your time. But you'll do a major work for God. And those of you who followed our lead and started preschools in your churches know that Judea Harvest was true to our word, and we built many preschools. With this vision, I hope we're going to come to a place where we start building schools on your premises. Now just think about it. If you have a church, and next to your church you have a school, just think how wonderful that will be. So before you say, oh, how am I going to do 12 grades and 12 teachers and all of that, it's just too big. I have a good news for you, Pastor. You don't start with 12 classrooms. No, you start with 1. 2022, you just start with grade 1. And you just recruit 10 or 20 grade 1 pupils. Then in the year 2023, then you add another class, a grade 2. And your children who used to be in grade 1, they now move to grade 2. And then after that, you start a grade 3 and a grade 4. So you grow into the vision, so that it doesn't kill you in the first year. And then you can think about growing it wider, deeper, bigger, or send those children to the state school. Now, why am I so serious about this? Because later today you'll see the possibility of how a grade 1 child could read. Now, our Minister of Education in South Africa, by her own admission, confessed that we have a problem in our schools, that by the end of grade 4, many of them cannot read and write properly, which means the system that they are using is failing a lot of children. The aim is, by the end of grade 1, a child must be able to read and write. Now, if you are familiar with schools, you'll know that is not true for many children. They cannot read and write by the end of grade 1. But that is what the government says they should be able to do. And we have looked at many education systems, and today we are going to give one of them an opportunity to talk to you. A good friend of mine, Jesse, will talk to you, and we'll show you how easy it actually is to start a school system at your place of work, your church, in your community. And I want you to just think about all of the opportunities that is available to you. Now, I have a good friend. His name is Rian van der Berg, and he is with an organization called FETSAS. And this organization, he will tell you more about it, but this organization is an association for all of the schools in the country. And he is going to talk to you and tell you the rules and the regulations and the do's and the don'ts and what is possible and what is not possible. And they, as an organization, is also there to guide every pastor who says, I want to do this. How do I go about registering? How do I go about registering the children? And in our country of South Africa, the laws are actually so beautiful that you can legally train your child or educate your child at your own home or at your own school or at your own church, as long as you register that with the government. And there's a system to do that he'll tell us all about. And I'm very excited that he is willing to talk to us and willing to guide us and to help us to bring this vision into fruition. And if I look at the future, I say, won't it be great if years from now every church has a foundation phase school, where every church has a facility where we bring those children in from the community and help them to make sure they can read, they can write, they can count. Did you know that according to the government published rules and regulations of school, when a child reaches the end of grade 1, he must be able to count from 1 to 100 and from 100 to 1. Not many of our children can do that. Why? Because our system is under pressure. This pressure creates an opportunity for the church. I challenge you today to think about that opportunity and to say, Lord God, am I the pastor that must use this opportunity? Am I the one to say, I'm going to jump on this and I'm going to challenge my community. I'm going to challenge my church board to do this. And may God bless you in this webinar today as you think about this, as you go through all the motions and think about how you can participate in making a cottage school at your church. It's my privilege now to give our time over to Rian van der Berg from FETSAS. Rian, welcome. We know that you have many challenges today, but thank you for taking time out of your schedule and investing that time in our pastors. We welcome to you to this platform.
Good morning, pastors. It's an honor to share with you this morning a few thoughts about the education landscape in South Africa. I'm very excited to be sharing some thoughts with you. I work in the education space. I'm with a governing body organization called FETSAS, the Federation of Governing Bodies of South African Schools. So we're in the trenches every day, understand the school landscape, the school legislation, and I just want to share a few thoughts. So allow me to share my screen and just share a few, some broad outlines of the education landscape in South Africa. I'm hoping that you can see my screen, so let's go with that. This is the governing body association that I represent or that I'm working with, and we understand the legal landscape and would love to advise and support. We want to see every school in South Africa thrive in order to present and deliver quality education for all. We're going to talk about the school landscape in South Africa and where we find ourselves. And some of it is generic and would fit into other countries as well. Governance is kind of a philosophy and not necessarily just limited to South Africa. But let's look at the South African space. And we're going to touch a little bit on the Constitution, the South African Schools Act. And then just in passing, I want to say that every province in South Africa has its own provincial regulations and laws. So in addition to the Constitution and the Schools Act, we've got national regulations that entail funding of schools, school infrastructure, admission policy, code of conduct, discipline, funding of teachers at schools, and all the relevant issues that are dealt with in the schooling space. And then provincial regulations and laws also exist. So even though the national government publish regulations and laws, we also need to take much cognizance and understand what the local province has to say in their laws and regulations. Some other policies also exist, and I've mentioned some of those. Some provinces have their own admissions policies, some have their own infrastructure, discipline, code of conduct. And then we want to touch on SACE, which is the South African Council for Educators. That's a professional body where all educators that stand in front of a class need to be registered, either permanently or temporarily. And then I just want to touch on the education narrative in South Africa and my thoughts about that, and maybe how it can fit into this discussion today. The Constitution of South Africa, I think, is the founding document of our nation. Our founding fathers sat long and hard and devised this, and there's a few cornerstones in the Constitution. The rights of people are included in the Bill of Rights, and included in that is the right to basic education. There's also included the right to mother tongue education where practicable. So the Constitution gives us a compass and a guideline to say that we should live in a specific way with the values entrenched in the Constitution, with exploring the potential of each citizen. The preamble of the Constitution starts with the words, "We the people," not them, the government. We the people must act in certain ways and do things. The preamble has a line that says, "We believe the future belongs to everyone who lives in the country." And the future is the children of South Africa. They're the present as well as the future, and we can make a difference. But there's a legal position that the best interest of a child is paramount in our Constitution, and children are protected in various ways in our Constitution. The guiding document in the schooling space in South Africa is the South African Schools Act. And yeah, it's a very, very powerful, strong document to outline the relationship in which our schools, our government, our public come together to do the best for their kids. We must make it clear, and some of the cornerstones in the Schools Act and understanding is the fact that we don't have state schools in South Africa. The South African Schools Act stipulates that we've got two types of schools in the country, and only two: public schools, which is commonly referred to as government or state schools, and independent schools, which are sometimes referred to as private schools. But the law has these two categories: public and independent. Public school is defined as a school with its own legal and juristic person, its own entity. It's not a branch of head office, which is the department or the government. It is a school for the community, by the community, and through the community. independent schools, they act as an additional channel where the public school might not exist, or where there's faith-based organizations or specific language groups or specific outcomes. Yes, that is where independent schools step into the space. Both of these, public and independent schools, can be fee-paying schools or no-fee schools. So in a sense, when as a public no-fee school, the government funds 100% of that school, but to a certain limit. And where there are fee-paying public schools, the parents voluntarily or by means of a decision, an annual general meeting decision of the parents to say, every parent that goes to this school or bring their child to the school must pay a certain fee. The same is for the independent schools. So you have very expensive, high fee-paying independent schools, and then you have possibly no fee independent schools or subsidized independent schools where the government also support independent schools with some funding, and parents can pay an additional fee to that. So that's where a lot of the lower cost independent schools exist. For a school to be a legal entity, there's some registration and legal hurdles to climb. And the Schools Act requires of an institution that wants to be a school to be registered with the department. Whether you're a public school or an independent school, you have to have a legal registration number, an EMIS number of the Department of Education. And these are given out, or the registration process is per province. So a province will register an entity as a school. Hope that makes sense. So we try and educate the public and educate the media and the market that we must talk the language, talk the lingo of the Act to refer to a public school and entrench the thinking that the public owns the school, the public makes the school better, the public participates in the governance process of a school through a governing body, of which the parents are the majority. All right. SACE, the South African Council of Educators, is a professional body that came into existence to elevate the professional status of the teaching profession. It's not just a job. In most cases, it's a calling. It's also more than just showing up and having a good heart. It is imparting knowledge. So the professional body requires teachers to be of a highly skilled level, or growing continually to improve their skills. So there's a professional way of delivering content and curriculum so that learners learn. We have a saying, if the learners have learned, the teachers have taught. So a teacher must have the ability. Second one of SACE, or the process that SACE manages, is that of ethics and code of conduct. Unfortunately, we have too many stories of educators or people working at schools and schools in institutions that break the law, that break code of conduct, that break ethic rules, and do not treat children well. And if we go back to the Constitution, we've got to act in the best interest of the child and also protect our children. That is where SACE has an ethics committee, and they look at all the cases of whatever is reported, bad conduct, sexual misconduct, all these things that we often read about in the news. But there are hundreds and thousands of teachers that do a good job, but they're never in the news. So yes, SACE is something to take care of. And the guiding light here is for a teacher to stand in a class in front of learners and teach and deliver curriculum. That teacher needs to be registered with SACE, either temporarily or on a permanent basis. Temporarily while they're still studying, on a permanent basis if they concluded their studies. So maybe in closure, just a little bit of my thinking of the education narrative. I'm talking about what are the do's and the don'ts. So the do's are follow the Constitution, follow the prescriptions in the Act, which says that we can establish a school, we can establish a public school, or we can establish an independent school. We can register, we can formalize and institutionalize this. We can raise funds, or we can get funding from the state. We just have to do this. The don'ts are, don't fly under the radar. Don't not do anything in the interest of our children. So here is the narratives that I want to conclude with. I mentioned the Constitution of South Africa and the opening lines of the preamble that says, we the people, we cannot wait for government to fill all the gaps. It is up to communities to stand up and take ownership and do something, up to faith-based communities to step into the space and deliver good values, to be the safe haven for kids to go to every day. In this pandemic, we have found that the safest place for learners were at school. Every time there was holiday, there was a difficult issue as far as infection goes. So the safest place would be at the school. So let us as a people do something. There's an African saying that says it takes a village to raise a child. And I am so aware of that, meaning that in my small community, my neighbors, my friends, my family, the people I live with, the community that I'm part of, they all shape each other and we all raise our children together. So it is in the interest of the village to make sure that all the children are raised with a sense of good values, a sense of ownership, a sense of dignity, a sense of hope and education that can break the potential cycles of poverty, of broken families, of hopelessness. We need to build on the cornerstones of education to do this. An official that I know very well at the Department of Education in Gauteng said this one day in a meeting. He said, even bad citizens want to be good parents, meaning that parents possibly know best, or grandparents, or the uncle or the aunt. The family members of children usually know better what's good for the children than the government does, than the local government does, than the mayor does. So yes, we've got laws, we've got regulations, we've got bureaucracy, and we all have to fit into that somewhere. But we need to do what's best for our children. And the Schools Act is built on a cornerstone of more parents on the governing body than other members. And the subliminal teaching in that, or the logic in that, is that parents take ownership of the journey, the learning journey of their children. Whether it's in a fee-paying school or in a no-fee school, the parents need to be involved and have to carry that burden, but also take the responsibility and then do what's best for their learners. Another thing that's very strong in the country at the moment, especially in Gauteng, is how the admissions policies have changed to fit to the statement there that the best school is the closest school. Learners travel far in taxis, buses, by foot, and lose time. It's dangerous. So there's a sense of a move towards, if the best school is the closest school, how wonderful would that be? So rather uplift the closest school, rather plant a closest school, so that the learners don't spend half their day traveling, but that they spend most of their day learning, having community with others, socializing. So yes, I think we can change, look back to the past, understand the present, and change the future and design a future that we can be a part of. I thank you for listening to me, and I hope this just creates some sense of what the cornerstones are that we should be thinking, and the boldness that we should have in making a difference in education in our wonderful country. Thank you very much. I hope you have productive discussions, and take care.
Well, thank you, Rian. We really appreciate your time, and thank you for talking to us. We read all the comments, and the comments are very positive. Lots of people have lots of questions. So, pastors, how we will deal with the questions is on this platform it's not so easy to answer all your questions. We will receive your questions in email form, and then we'll forward that to Rian and to all the people involved, and we'll give you personal information. Today we just want to stimulate your mind to say, this is possible. It is within the law of South Africa to do it, and it's not that difficult to do. That's what we achieved today. So if you have emails, you can just email us at admin@judeaharvest.co.za, and we will answer all your questions. So now I want to introduce you to Peter and Vivian Jenkins. Now, I've known these people for many years. They are people who have given their life to helping people. They have spent a lifetime as missionaries, as church planters, as pastoral educators, as people who go and work in the most of difficult of circumstances, uplifting communities. And I have the utmost respect for the work they have done in their lifetime. And the reason I have them on this webinar today is they're going to testify as to their journey in Zimbabwe with schools. Because 20 years or more ago, when they were working in Zimbabwe, they had the exact problem we have today in South Africa. And they said, let's tackle this, let's do something. So they started an alternative system, and it grew into something fantastic. And before I tell you what had happened with that, I'm going to put them on the line, and they're going to share their journey in touching schools and using schools as a means to touch children, educate them, and touch them for God. Thank you, Peter. Thank you, Vivian. We are welcoming you to this webinar.
Thank you very much, Kola. I don't know if you can see me yet.
No, we can't see you. Maybe you just need to put your camera back on.
Turn the screen share on.
That's it. Ah, there we are. Well, good morning to all of you folk who are attending this webinar. It's such a privilege to be able to speak to you today. When I heard the topic, I was very excited. But first of all, just let me introduce my lovely wife, Vivian. She is a teacher by profession. She's a mother of 4, and she's a real visionary when it comes to education. And she and I were trained at Bible College in America in the 1980s. So when Kola said 20 years ago, it's a bit more than that. But anyway, in 1982, we returned to Gweru in Zimbabwe. And I came as a young assistant pastor, just 30 years old. And Viv had a vision for starting a Christian school. And I want to tell you, you need vision. And Kola spoke about praying about what you're hearing today. And ask God to speak to you. Because if God puts a vision to start a school in your hearts, then nothing is going to stop you, provided you are faithful to run with that vision. So I just want to hand over to Viv first, because she's the one who got me involved in this whole business. And I've been working together with her as well as on mission work, training pastors, planting churches. But she's the one that got me inspired for education. And it's been a marvelous journey. It's been wonderful to see what the Lord has done with us, in us, and through us. We've learned so much in starting a school in Gweru, Zimbabwe. But I want Viv to just tell you how she thought about this in the beginning.
Well, it's lovely to be with you today. A real privilege to be part of this team. And I want to just say that it started very much the way Kola was saying. We were over in America for 2 years at Bible school, and at that time, many churches, it was like at least one church was starting a school in their church buildings every day in 1980 and 81. And so this was a rapid movement. They were doing it because there was a need, just as Kola said, and their need was that they felt that the state schools were becoming more and more ungodly. And so I was so interested as a teacher, And I started attending seminars like this one to see how they were doing it, an alternate way of education. And so I got such a vision that when we returned to Zimbabwe, that we would start just the way Kola said, something doable, one grade at one time, grade 1. And so I looked for materials, and we're going to hear just now from Jessie a wonderful system that is very user-friendly and doable. And I found a curriculum and equipment just the way that Jessie's going to talk about, not identical. But I bought for grade 1 and grade 2, and I had a vision to return to Gweru and to start a grade 1, a school, a cottage school, probably in a church building. And the Lord just took that passion, and what he did in extraordinary ways was introduce us, supernaturally almost, to other people with the same vision. And we didn't know it, but it was actually God's plan to grow this cottage school far more quickly than just 1 grade a year. But that's what happened. Went back with exactly Kola's vision to start a cottage school, starting with grade 1, and that's where we started.
And I think basically Kola spoke about the needs, the problems in the community being our opportunities. And exactly the story he told us is what was happening in Zimbabwe at that time. Schools were overcrowded. They were under-resourced in terms of teachers. So there was a huge need in our community. And that's always an opportunity for the church. And when we grab those opportunities, God does amazing things. And you know what? When you reach the children, you bless the heart of God, but you also reach the parents. And we found that not only were children getting saved, but their parents were coming into the church as well. One important thing is you need to aim to supply more than there is currently in your community. You can't offer something that is of a lower standard or even the same standard as what's already there, because people won't switch unless they think this is going to be better. So we start very small, and with very little, but we aim quite high. As Viv said, we actually started literally as a cottage school. We had 2 rooms in some converted stables on a small holding just outside of the town, and 2 teachers. And that's how it all started, 23 kids. Within a few months, it had grown to 100 children. That's how great the need was, and that was very difficult for us. Just want to say one thing right up front is that when you start a school like this, you will experience opposition. In our situation, government wasn't well disposed towards independent or private education at all. We had to really jump through a lot of hoops. We ended up meeting with the Minister of Education and with the Vice President before we got approval to start the school. But God gave us the go-ahead. And when we started at a week's notice. We were painting board paint onto the walls. We didn't even have the boards. In a church building. It was amazing. But anyhow, I want to just let Viv say a few more things about how they went about it and how the impacts of these opportunities worked with the parents and so on.
Yes, so as Peter said, there was this huge need, and we operated for 1 term, this teacher friend and I, using the materials that I had brought, and with 23 children. And then there was such a need that we moved into a church, a pastor in town. It wasn't our church. It was amazing the way God brought us together. And he made his church available for us with different classrooms, Sunday school classrooms and things like that. And so we grew to 115 that first year.
Were these all Christian children, right?
Oh, no, actually, that's a very interesting comment. It was always my heart to outreach children from every racial and religious background. And so we just let the children come, suffer the little children to come unto me. And so, yes, it was different, but they had to accept that we were a Christian school and actually sign a document to say that they would allow their children to participate. And so the wonderful thing is that if you prayed up, and it's really important that that first tutor that you find is dynamic, that he or she has the children's best at heart and is really organized, because as Peter said, and as Rian said and Kola said, the parents want the best for their children. And if this person, this tutor, the Lord will bring that person to you. And he gathered a team around us, and that small mustard seed vision grew beyond our expectation to I think there are over 800 children on campus at this time at Midlands Christian School, Midlands Christian College. God brought the human resources. The Lord supplied the finances with a series of miracles that we don't have time to tell you today. It's a huge school, high fee paying, that's the way it is. And we started teacher training there using UNISA degrees. So to be honest, pastors, the Lord will be the Holy Spirit will be the wind under your wings. If God places this on your heart, you will see him do things beyond your imagination, because his heart is for the children.
Viv, you told us that you love the idea of reaching out to children. Tell us some of the stories, or at least one story, about how parents have been impacted by the school.
Well, just so many stories, but just one story was we would start every week, children would learn a memory verse, and with the grade 1s, all have sinned and come short of the glory of God. And this little girl, I won't forget her name, she was Angela, and she was learning this memory verse, and she was at home, skipping around, chanting it all the time. All have sinned and come short of the glory of God. All have sinned and come short of the glory of God. And her mother's name was Rhoda. Can't forget this. And her mother came to the teacher on Wednesday and said, "The strangest thing is happening. My daughter is chanting these words. And when I shut my eyes to go to sleep at night, I hear all have sinned and come short of the glory of God." And she said, "I know that I have sinned." And that teacher was able to lead Rhoda to the Lord. And to this day, 40 years later, Rhoda is serving the Lord. Your churches will be so blessed.
One of the kids that came in, his father was a pastor in Victoria Falls, and he was very impressed with the school that we were working with there, and I actually worked with him in the church. But there was a teacher strike many years ago, and some of the parents in the church came and said, "Can't we help our children? They've got exams." So this was like on a Saturday. On the Monday, they opened up their church building. Of course, they all had their own books because they were in other schools, which were now shut. And so they came, and the teachers that were in the church started tutoring them. And that little tutor group changed and became a school. And they now have buildings, they have science labs, they have computers in the township in Victoria Falls. So there are so many stories we could tell you about this, but you will always face some problems. One of the problems we had in the early days was you couldn't get reading books to teach children to read, and you're going to hear how important that is. You've already heard from Kola. So Viv and a friend of hers who taught the little ones, they actually wrote their own reading books, and Longman Publishers heard about these and ended up publishing them. There's some samples. I think you're going to read them all backwards because they're being mirrored. But anyway, there are lovely books, and they have got stories about typical African communities with the different ethnic groups getting on well, kids playing together. It's just great, not only to teach them to read, but also to teach them to overcome some of the divides that have been a problem for our countries in the past. So I think we have probably run out of our time, but I just want to say to you, pastors, we're going to be praying for you. We are very excited about this initiative, and we believe that you will not only bless the children, you will not only be blessed yourselves to see what happens, but your churches will grow because of the kids and their parents loving the schools that you open up in your communities, and therefore wanting to know more about Jesus, who you preach. God bless you, and may the Lord bless your endeavors as you grab hold of this vision and run with it.
God bless.
Thank you, Vivian, Peter. You are such a blessing, and thank you for setting the example. I am also taking a little bit of privilege here and say, I guess if some of our pastors want to do this, you will avail yourselves for telephonic guidance and encouragement and so on. So be prepared that that pressure might come to you to help those who say, I'm also going to raise my hand to challenge the kingdom of God. We thank you. Be blessed.
We would love to.
And thank you for what you are doing for the kingdom of God, and continue to do so. So, pastors, the next speaker is a man named Jesse, and a good friend of mine that travels the country, visiting schools and visiting typically the type of schools that we are advising that you now consider. And he is from an organization called ACE, and they provide a curriculum. Now, there are many curriculums available, and if you want to do a church school, if you want to do a school in your church or in your home or in a house or wherever you want to do it, one of the things you will need is a curriculum. The other thing you will need is an educator. Now, when you hear the word educator, many of you think, well, I must have registered, accredited and trained teachers. And yes, that's true. But for a cottage school, you only need one teacher that's registered. All the other tutors can be volunteers, it can be younger people, it can be people in training, and we will guide you through all of those processes. So it's really very possible. But the thing you cannot be without is a curriculum. A curriculum is that set of tools that guides you and say, week 1, this is what you must do. Week 2, this is what you must do. And in the 52 weeks of a year, the curriculum guides you what you must teach the child. Now, there are many curriculums available in South Africa. And I implore you, if you are interested in this, go on the internet. You can even contact FETSAS. You can contact Marie at our office, and she will help you. She's very well versed in all of the different curriculums, and each one of them has got advantages and has got disadvantages. So we are not here as Judea Harvest to promote a specific curriculum, and we want to strongly say you can use the curriculum that makes sense to you. And maybe in different provinces, different curriculums might be more prevalent and more popular, and even the teachers that you recruit might have a preference to a certain curriculum. So whatever one you use is not that important. What is important is to reach the goals. Now, if you look at the government website, then you will see that there is some goals that a child must reach in every circumstance. And if you follow that guideline, you can use whatever curriculum you want to reach those goals. Now, Jesse represents an organization in South Africa that has really invested themselves into providing a great curriculum. And I've looked at their stuff, and I think it's one of the better curriculums in South Africa that is available. It is not the cheapest curriculum, but it is, in my view, a curriculum that provides the better value for money option. And if you look at this curriculum, then it gives you everything that you need. So Jesse will come on now, and he will present to us, and he's currently in Namibia. So we really appreciate that he's talking to us all the way from there while he's stuck there with COVID and all the rules that is around COVID. But Jesse, thank you for coming. We are really excited to hear what you have to say to our pastors. Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you, Kola. I just want to know, can you all hear me? Brilliant. Sure. Thank you very much for this opportunity to just share with you all. As Kola said, I'm currently in Namibia, so please excuse the noise. We are right near a freeway. But it's really exciting for me as an individual to share with like-minded individuals, people who are passionate about young people, and are passionate to see the world come to Jesus through these young people, because we believe that the next generation is key in winning the world for Jesus. So I'm just basically going to share a short presentation that shouldn't be very long, just to give you an idea of what we do. I work for an organization called Accelerated Education Enterprises. We are a curriculum provider and an association as well. Excuse me. So I'm just gonna give you a brief overview of our organization, what we do, what we can offer you as an organization, as a church. We do service a lot of church schools, a lot of churches that have decided that they would like to start schools. So we do help and service and provide curriculum to a lot of these entities. So without any further ado, let me just go through, just want to share my screen quickly with you. Okay. All right. I'm not sure if everybody can see my my screen in full, but just want to quickly go through everything. Who is AEE? So just a bit about us. Just wanted to go to why we do what we do and how we do it. And our why is very much summarized in our vision, where we believe in an educated Africa where everyone has the opportunity to reach their full potential. What we do is we empower and impact Africa by delivering access to world-class education solutions that are innovative and relevant to the continent. And how we do it is we provide innovative curriculum, learning materials, and e-learning solutions which unlock academic success both in schools and at home. Our values are godliness, integrity, excellence, and innovation. And this really does speak to us as an organization. Excuse me. It gives you an idea as to what we value as an organization. And these are very, very important to us. What is special about our curriculum? Well, just a broad overview. Our curriculum is values-based. There are scriptures involved. There are character traits involved. So it's very values-based, and it's very biblical-based as well. We believe in a personalized system of instruction where students are able to work at their own pace. In our system, in the way it's set up, a student can be a high academic performer or a student that has more specific needs in their academics, and they can sit together in the same setting, receive the same care, because the teacher is a facilitator. And I'll touch on that a little later as well. It's been successfully implemented in 24 countries across the continent of Africa for over 36 years. Our organization has been going for over 36 years. A man by the name of Pastor Trevor Yoko was very instrumental in pushing our organization and encouraging churches to start schools. And his words to churches were, well, your building is empty from a Monday to a Friday. Why not plant a school? And you can impact your community every single day of the week. This curriculum has been successfully implemented in more than 140 countries globally. And it has been used effectively across various socioeconomic areas. We service schools across a whole lot of areas from quintile 1 to quintile 5. Quintile 1 being your poorer, lower socioeconomic areas, and quintile 5 being your more affluent areas. And we've been able to service schools across the whole range of quintiles. Our partners in education, we generally service two types of schools. We service community outreach schools, or what we've termed community outreach schools, which would be more or less what you're looking for in terms of what we're discussing today. And we service schools, full schools, in your more affluent areas. So just quickly, we've got curriculum ranging from preschool right up to grade 4, grade 5, even up to grade 12, actually. And I'm just going to briefly go to the ages, the foundation ages, the foundational ages that Kola has been speaking about. So this is our preschool program. We call it the step-by-step program. It focuses on the age group of 3 to 5-year-olds. It reinforces color, shape, and number concepts, and it introduces phonics to learners. So it sets the tone for reading as well. It incorporates 6 early learning developmental areas, which we believe is very important. And those 6 areas are well-being, identity and belonging, communication. We explore mathematics. We encourage creativity and knowledge and understanding of the world itself. The next step in our preschool program is the SHAPE program. The SHAPE program is very much a grade R curriculum. It's based on the successful ACE curriculum that's been implemented all over the world. It focuses on the age group of 5 to 6, which, as I mentioned, is a grade R. It equips both the teacher and the learner during the learning process. And teachers are equipped with materials, instruction guides, and tools to effectively assist the learners in this program. Just some special features: we have coordination development tests, student programs, suggestions for dynamic storytelling, bulletin board ideas, comprehensive list of materials and equipment needed, and concept review stories. So this just gives you a basic idea of what our grade R curriculum does, what are the special features, and this sets the foundation for our LEAP program, which is our grade 1 learning to read program. So as I mentioned, the LEAP program, so reading development is what the focus is here. The program focuses on learning to read program, which is our grade 1 program. It's based on the highly successful ACE curriculum. It's designed as a multi-sensory phonics program. It's structured for physical, academic, and spiritual development. It may be used for reinforced learning as well. The LEAP program uses phonics to assist learners. It helps children to work out words, decipher unfamiliar words, helps with whole word recognition, and it will also help children learn to sound out words. And this program has been successful in being able to assist learners to read as early, grade 1 learners, as early as May and June. So our learners right now, towards the end of June, that are using this program with the assistance of teachers, are actually able to read with meaning, with understanding, which is absolutely phenomenal and a real problem that we face in South Africa. So this is just a basic clip, and I hope the sound comes through. Just of a young student who's in grade 1 who's actually learned to read, and this is taken in a school in a lower socioeconomic, I think it was a quintile 2 school, down in Durban, South Africa. Durban, KZN rather. And just to give you an idea of what our learners are able to do.
Come, Papa, come, come. Let us run with a song in our hearts. Let us have much fun. We will not go away. We will play or run in the park. We will run fast and slow. We will run up and down. We will play a long, long time. We will play all this glad and happy day. We will see cars,
Maar kan jy dink vir 'n kind, nee, wat skool toe gaan, hy kan nie lees en skryf nie. Dis net lettertjies. En 6 maande later kan hy 'n boek oopmaak en lees. Dis net hy gevoel van achievement.
God for very happy says Papa.
Thank you so much.
Okay, so that was just a short clip. That is a grade 1. I think it's a little grade 7. It's a 7-year-old. I think it's a 6 or 7-year-old, and every time I see that, I always get so excited and a little bit emotional, because these young people are in poor areas where teachers are not well resourced in general, and it contributes to the statistics of learners that are in grade 4 that are not able to read with meaning and understanding. And we're just so excited that we're able to provide something that can help tackle that issue. But nevertheless, I'm going to move on to what we term PACEs. And this part of it is focused on your grade 1 to grade 4 learners. And they are able to work through these PACEs. I'm going to elaborate a little bit more on it. This is very much the ACE curriculum. It's Christian and values-based education. It's individualized, focused curriculum. Excuse me. Consists of modular learning units. And so it's small little booklets of work that the learners will go through. One of the foundational areas is helping learners to set goals and meet deadlines. So learners will set goals in their PACEs or their modular learning units, and once they've completed it, they are able to cross it off. So the system helps assist learners in setting goals, and also assist them in meeting the deadlines that they've set for themselves. It also helps learners develop critical thinking skills, and it helps students think creatively and independently. We want learners to be able to think for themselves, to be able to think critically, and to be able to think creatively. And this, for us, is so important because it's going to help these learners come up with solutions for problems that we have not faced yet. And we know that these young people, if we can equip them right, they will make such an impact in the community around them. And it will also be a shining light to the community at large, that this is our God and this is how He's created these young people. So we really do believe that we want them to be independent individuals that rely on the Lord, but have their identities rooted in Him. And that is what we believe our curriculum offers. This is just basically our online solution. It's called Comprehend Africa. If there is anybody interested in an innovative online solution, it very much focuses on the personalized system of instruction, as does the ACE curriculum. It is our e-learning platform. It's online, web-based curriculum, so you could access it from anywhere in the world. It uses the same individualized methodology as the ACE curriculum. It caters for grades 4 to 9. It has about 85 courses on Comprehend Africa. And we've got USA, American-based courses, as well as South African capsule-line curriculum available as well. And that's just a brief screenshot of what our curriculum actually looks like. It's very innovative, very exciting. And last but not least, before I just pass my parting remarks or my closing remarks, we have the AEE Association. And this is, it's a collective of schools that we service. We service about, I think it's just over 200 schools in South Africa. Not to mention the very large amount of home schools that we service as well. And what we do is we offer services for these schools, and they range from offering them policies right up to advocacy and maybe some site visits as well to assist in developing the school and helping the school grow. And I'll just touch on that very briefly. This is just a very broad overview of our services that are offered. We offer government lobbying, administrative injustices, or remedies for administrative injustices. We have an accelerated benefit scheme that's available to those who are a part of the association. We offer professional development for teachers as well. We have ongoing support from our regional EduZone teams throughout the country. We've got 3 EduZone teams in South Africa, focusing on various areas. A northern zone that focuses on Gauteng, Limpopo, Northwest, and Mpumalanga. Our eastern EduZone focuses on KZN and Free State, and our southern EduZone focuses on Eastern Cape, Western Cape, and Northern Cape. And they are there to assist schools and help them and visit them, touch sides with them, and just be a blessing to them. We also have a school enrichment program that is on offer as well. We call it school development or school improvement, where we help schools grow and become better to ensure that they are able to give good, godly education at a very high standard. We also assist with school policies. We have a school management system that we can offer you as well. And there are online learning tools. This is specifically focused on something called LearnCloud that takes specific learning areas, and we've done videos and things like that to help learners identify and understand these concepts. We have our association membership works on a monthly membership fee calculated according to the number of learners attending your school. So that's just a very basic idea of what our association is as well. And it's just to give you an idea of this is what we can offer as an organization. The beauty about the system, and I'm actually an ACE graduate, so I've been through the system, and I've learned so much. I've learned how to set goals. I've learned how to achieve goals. I've learned how to teach myself, because in our curriculum, the pace is the teacher. The supervisor or the tutor or the facilitator just facilitates the learning. It's actually the pace that teaches, and the learners are able to draw their knowledge from the pace. And that's serviced me very well, especially in my tertiary education. It serviced me very well in life, where I'm able to take concepts and learn them by myself, as well as become a little bit more goal-oriented and able to achieve what I need to achieve. So ACE, going through the ACE system has benefited me a lot in life, and I'm very grateful for that. So I think that's it from my side. that's basically everything I've needed to share.
Okay.
So thank you so much for your time. I really do appreciate it. It's, as I said, it's such a blessing to share with like-minded individuals who love the Lord, and I really have a passion to see the next generation grow in Him. So thank you very much, Kola and the Judea Harvest team. We really do appreciate you, and we look forward to helping wherever we can.
Thank you, Jesse. We really appreciate that you took time out of your schedule, and especially the fact that you are traveling. And I just want to confirm that you will be personally available for any pastor who wants to call you and say, well, I heard you on the seminar, but I have these questions. And then you can answer them personally. And I remember that
Yes.
you told me that you are available for that. So every
Yes.
pastor can rest assured, if you have questions, Jesse will guide you and help you in that. The number one question, thank you, Jesse. God bless you. The number
Thank
one
you.
question that every pastor asks is, how much will it cost me? Now, this is the very important question, because what we are saying as Judea Harvest, this should not be free. The government has schools that are free. Your school must be one level up, because otherwise you are competing with what the government is giving. You don't want to do that. So the government schools are free. Most parents pay nothing, or they pay a very small fee according to whatever school it is. And then you have private tutoring, private schools, the Maragon, the Maravest, the Doxadeo schools, all the other private schools, and they are very expensive. So what Judea is saying is the Cottage school is somewhere in between. It's not free, but it's not expensive. It is something here. And you want the children whose parents are saying, I'm willing to pay something. I can't afford the private school of 2,000 and 5,000 and 10,000 rand a month. I can't afford that, but I can afford 500 rand a month for the education of my child. Those are the parents you want to target. And in each individual suburb and place of our country, the prices might differ. So if you are a little bit more affluent, you can maybe ask a little bit more. If you are in a very poor area, let's say a squatter area, then maybe you can't ask 1,000 rand a month. You have to ask less. But it is not free. Hear me, pastors, do not do it for free. You must ask a price for it. Why? Because the curriculum is not free. The curriculum that we use, whether you use ACE or you use any other curriculum, you will have to pay for that. Now, curriculum is paid for in two ways. Number one is you can buy a curriculum from a provider and you pay one price and you have it. Then you have to duplicate that curriculum. You have to print the books, print the right books for the children, print the books that the children have to write in, the exercise books and all of that. That's the one type of curriculum available in our country. The other curriculum is like ACE. You pay per child, but they provide everything. So you get in your mail enough exercise books, books for the teachers and everything. And we prefer that you consider that you don't get stuck on photocopying and printing and providing all the things that a child needs. Because if that fails, then you are equal to the government system that cannot provide books in time and cannot provide for every child everything. So that's why we do that. So cost-wise, we will email you all the cost of the different curriculum and you can decide. But ACE works on a principle, if you have 10 children, you pay for 10 and they provide. If you have 20, you pay for 20 and they provide for 20. So it's a very usable curriculum because it's scaled according to your school. So if after 3 or 4 years you have 400 children, you'll pay for 400. But if you start with 10, you'll only pay for 10. and you pay per month. So you don't need a lot of capital up front. The second question is, what will I need to start? Number one, you will need a classroom, and the church is an excellent place that you can use for that. Number two, you will need toilets, because we cannot allow children to come to a place where we educate them and there's no toilets facility for them. Number three, you will need desks, a place where a child can sit and have a chair and a table of some sort that he can write on. And there are many ways to do that. In the system of cottage schools, you don't need the old type of school desks. You can use tables, or you can use platforms or desktops or whatever, because every child works at his own pace. So he doesn't have to look to the front to the teacher. For example, you can let children sit in a circle, or you can let them sit in blocks, because they don't have to look to the front. They look to their own book where they are working. So they can have a private cubicle that they work. So there are many ways to do that, and some of them use a writing desk that you put on the lap of the child. Some use a table or a platform, but you will need that. Then you will need an educator. Now, if you start with grade 1, you don't need a registered teacher that can teach grade 12 mathematics and science and all of that. When you start with foundation phase grade 1, you don't need that. You need a tutor, somebody that has matric and so on. And you can put that person on a trajectory with ACE to grow into the education system as well. And because we have a curriculum that you follow, you just need somebody that is educated enough to cover that curriculum and help children with that. Number 5, you need to register the school with the government. So if you want to take in children and you want to educate them, you must register the school with the government to say, I'm going to do this. And each individual child must also be registered. And Fetsas and Rian, whom you've heard on the group, can help with that. He can guide you with that. And then we have a wonderful lady on staff here by Judea Harvest called Marie Willemse. Many of you have met her, and she's such a servant of the Lord Jesus Christ, and she has availed herself to say, I will help you. So her number is going to be available at our office. So if you need personal guidance, you can call her, and she will help you through the minefield of just getting the first steps to getting this done. I would advise that you don't start a school next month, but that you start planning and putting all your stuff together to start it in January 2022, which sounds a long time away, but it is not. 6 months and then we will be there. But 6 months will give you ample time to prepare your facility, recruit your educators, and if you can, recruit a teacher, somebody who is registered with the government and who has done teaching education at the educational college of the government. That'll be the best if you can get somebody like that. And let's say you want a broad school, you want many children, then you only need one registered teacher and the others can be educators. So the registered teachers look after the educators and they look after the children. So you have 6 months to put your stuff in line, and Judea will help you, Jesse will help you, Rian will help you, and Marie will help you to get all your questions in order and to do this. And we trust that you will be great and have a lot of success. Okay, it seems that we have touched on all the subjects and answered all the questions. So from here, we want to motivate you. Send us an email, either to admin@Judea Harvest, to our offices, or you can go look on our website to get the right relevant person, or you can email Marie and she will guide you into the next steps. Thank you for attending the seminar. May God bless you, and may you have a great day and a great year. And remember, the cheese has moved. If you don't move, you'll die. We are not going to go back to the way things were. We have to create a new reality. And may the Holy Spirit bless you and guide you as you seek the answers to the new world and the new today. God bless you.